Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And this is, you're into a window right now that is the peak, the best, the sweet spot for planting now through like Thanksgiving is like the best time to be planting trees, evergreen trees, shade trees, mainly the bigger, faster growing trees. So spruce and pine and fir and junipers and cedars and cypress, all of those are good. All the evergreens are good. Also, all the maples and aspens and ash and locusts and oaks, all that famous fall color. This is the time you put them in the ground, and you're putting them in now. They're going to lose their leaves. The deciduous ones are. They're going to turn this fabulous gold or red or orange. They're going to drop their leaves. They're going to hibernate right there in your yard. They're going to continue to elongate roots. Next spring, they're going to pop out, usually starting in March, sometime, depends on the weather. They start popping out and they start growing again. So you get a much larger plant next summer by planting now. Here's an insider tip. Here's the real secret of Southwest or very drought or dry kind of climate planting. It's unique. So where it's real humid, you've got more fudge factor. It's easier. Plants don't dry out. They can keep up. There's humid. They like humidity. Plants can struggle when it's dry. So our most difficult season to grow anything in Arizona, the month of June. June is dry. There's all this tender new growth on the plant. There's a prevailing southwest wind and it's 10% humidity. That is rough on plants. And so every month you can plant before the month of June, the more roots, the more hardy, the stronger that plant's going to be, the more vigor it's going to have to get through that heat of June. And then usually the monsoon rains start to come. So this last July, okay, it was hot for a moment. There was 2 weeks where it was just like, oh my gosh, I never remembered a July like this because everything was slid over by a month. So it was really cold this year, late. I mean, it was cold into May. Things were a month delayed getting started. And then the monsoon started a month later. The entire growing season just kind of shifted a month towards now. Now it's gorgeous. And so usually it's that June to July 4th. Then sometime in July, the monsoons come and the pressure's off. So it's almost another planting season for us. So as soon as the ground becomes rehydrated with the monsoon rains, you can start planting trees and shrubs again. And so June is that secret. The more months you can plant before that heat, the easier it's going to be for you to keep those plants alive. Yeah, you can put on a drip system, but a drip irrigation, it's life support. It barely keeps the plant going through those heats. And then the rain comes, the humidity comes, all of a sudden, oh, these drip irrigations, they're great. It's not the drip irrigation. It's Mother Nature naturally taking care of your landscape. The drip system just simply bridges the gaps between the moisture, the snow, the rain. So plant now. It's a good time to plant. Now, if you're planting now, an insider tip, and I'm sure I'll share this in 3 or 4 or 5 months. In winter, we water here in Arizona. We irrigate plants 12 months out of the year. Now, it ebbs and flows how much, but you are going to need if you plant a new spruce tree, a beautiful Christmas tree, a big full, it's got the most spectacular pine trees I've seen in years. They just arrived. They are stunning. They're humongous. The root ball's gigantic. It is even going to need water through winter. It's going to need it because we get dry spells, especially towards the end of the year. And so you're not watering very often. When you do, you're giving it a deep soak. So you're watering maybe starting in November. You're going to water things a couple times a month. That's all it takes because the ground's cooling off, but you're still going to need to do it. The big mistake I find new folks make, especially folks that come where from that Midwest where the ground freezes, there you plant and you leave it alone because it's planted in ice. It's waiting there in stasis until spring comes and it takes off. Here, there is no stasis. Plants keep rooting literally right through winter. That's the beauty of it. But the pressure is you're going to have to supplement some water in the middle of winter. So you're watering, you put a brand new, let's say aspen or a beautiful blaze maple in the gardens. The stunning red fall colored plant. They're just glorious now through October. It's the fastest growing of the red maples that actually does better here than other maples. Plant it now. Water it maybe a couple times a week until November or so. So by the second week of November, you're pretty much throttling things back. It doesn't have foliage on it. It's now deciduous. That is, it's just the main trunk of that main structure you can see. You might throw a little few twinkle lights up there. We tend to have these at the holidays. We got these laser lights that have multiple colors. We shine them up into our blaze maple, and it reflects off of the branches, and it looks like we hung lights up in this ginormous tree. It's a 35-foot tree by 25-foot wide. It's a true shade tree. So you can decorate it, but it's probably at that point when it's losing its foliage. It's kind of the last leaf dropped. You're probably watering that from that point forward. Yeah, well, a couple times a month. That's enough. So a couple times a week when you first put it in the ground, a couple times a month after that. And I've got a water guide. If that's confusing, if you're driving down the road, don't worry. Next time you're on this side of town, stop by Waters Garden Center. I'll give you a water guide. It tells you exactly that. So don't think, or go to our website, type in water guide. There's a search bar at the top. It'll pop right up for you. So we're there to help you, but just realize that's a mistake I find mainly Midwest folks make. They put it in the ground, they walk away, they go back to their home in Scottsdale, and they don't think about it again. And it got winter kill or got a little dried during a cold spell. And so the tips tend to burn off. And so you can keep that from happening with just sporadic watering through winter. It's a game changer. Oh, where else was I going? I forgot. Fall to-do list. Oh my gosh, it's time to plant flowers, time to plant shrubs. Oh, the fall colored shrubs are here. There's evergreen shrubs growing up like crazy. If you need a new screen, like privacy screen, you got a great selection of vines, of big showy shrubs. And there's more value to them because back in the spring, they're the same price as they were back in the spring. There's been no inflation from then to here, but they've doubled in size just with new growth. So it's still a 5-gallon plant, but it's twice the size. So you get more plant for the money this time of year. And so you can afford to put an extra one in or two, or you can kind of see what they really look like when they're full. Some spectacular Arizona cypress came in. Arizona cypress, a native evergreen. It's the number one plant that we plant for living walls, for screening out that barn across the way, that debris pile, blocking the wind for you folks out in the valley areas. Okay, you plant a few strategically in the southwest part of your property. It will cut the wind down. These are big 25-foot by 12-foot wide solid evergreens. They're bigger than your native junipers, more and fuller. And so nice, crisp, like Arizona blue to them. And once they get up to size, you can let them go on their own. They're truly a native plant. So Arizona cypress, great plant. And now is the best time to plant them. It's better than spring. It's easier, hardier, and you're going to get better growth next spring by planting now rather than waiting in spring, because those plants, they root first, then they grow. So if you wait to plant them next spring, they're going to sit there and go, I'm not going anywhere. I'm putting roots down, and then I'm going to grow the following season. So typically conifers, those plants that are evergreen, not all of them, but most of them, they grow in the spring and then that's it. Whatever growth you get out of a pinyon pine, a ponderosa, or Austrian pine, a spruce, a junipers, whatever that grows, how long those branches grow in the spring, that's all you get for the year. So that's why it's so important to plant them now and then fertilize them now. I'll cover that. I'll make sure I cover fertilizing, because this is the most important time of the year, bar none. The most important feeding of the entire year. I'll cover that in depth, maybe at the bottom of the hour. We got to bring Lisa Waterslane in with your garden questions right after this important message. Be right back.
Whether you're freshening up an existing landscape or starting with a blank slate, the Waters In-Store Garden Consultation is right for anyone.
If you don't know where to start, Waters' personal shopper service allows you to book one-on-one time with an expert without the crowds.
It's easy by phone or through our website. No lines, no waiting.
Purchase a $250 gift card from Waters, and it comes with one-on-one private gardener time.
You're going to love your yard again.
Waters Garden Center in Prescott or watersgardencenter.com.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
Oh, got it. And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week with your garden question. Just what are people talking about? And what are your neighbors asking? What are they coming into the garden center with bags of pestilence and disease? Or what are they seeing in the yard? Sometimes if there's 100 gardeners in the neighborhood, let's see if someone's seeing something, let's share that. Instead of a social media outlet, we have the Mountain Gardener with Lisa Waters Lane. She comes in each week and just shares that with you. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It is good to be here. Autumn is here. It's like it's autumn been here for 2 weeks, and it just feels like it's like my favorite time of year. The mountains of Arizona. It's a famous time of year.
I thought you didn't like fall.
I don't, because it reminds me that spring is over. My favorite time is summer. If I had another daughter or son, I would name them Summer. It's just such a great Summer. I don't care. I like it that much. It'd be worthwhile. Okay. What's your favorite season?
Fall. Always fall.
Yeah, everyone.
Fall. The nights are cool. The mornings are cool. Days are just right. It's a good time of year.
Just right.
Yeah.
Well, what are people talking about out in the gardens?
Well, our first question is from Penny in Prescott. She has a peony question.
I was hoping you're going to use someone Summer from Chino Valley for Bolden.
No. So Penny wants to know, when do you cut back your peonies?
Yeah, good question.
And when is the right time to fertilize the peonies?
Great questions, Penny. Penny. Penny with the peonies.
We're in Prescott.
Penny in Prescott. Peonies. And they'll grow anywhere in the Central Highlands. So anywhere from probably 3,500 foot and above. So that'd be Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Sedona, all the way up to Flagstaff. Peonies are going to grow well. The challenge is going to be that clay soil. So that's what peony have, this real fibrous root mass. And so if they get in real heavy soil and they just sit there, they'll rot on you. So they just sit there and turn to mush. So we've killed a few in our yard. We're masters at killing plants, especially peonies. And we've killed like 3 or 4. I shouldn't say that over the airway. That's like embarrassing.
But we have a heavy clay.
Super ridiculous clay on a north slope, so it never dries. So now we grow peonies in raised beds and containers. Game changer. All of a sudden, they started thriving, blooming a long time. So obviously, Prescott has got different kinds of soils, depending on what hillside you're looking at. Just make sure the soil drains. We say that 10 times fast, and you're fine. But her question is, peony, when do you cut them back? Don't feel rushed, Penny. Let them die back naturally. So they're going to start turning color. They'll get this beautiful gold color, like aspen gold, and they're up about knee high to hip high, depending on what variety that you have in your yard. But let them do their thing, because what they'll do is they'll start shutting down. They'll pull all that carbohydrates, all the sugars from the foliage, or pull it down into the roots, and they'll store that stuff up. And so they're actually bulking up on their roots. If you whack off on them, they don't get a chance to do that, and they'll lose that last. It's kind of like vegetables or apples on a tree. Those last few days make a big difference in the taste. If you pick them early, a week early, and ship them to the grocery store, they just don't have the same flavor. Right off the tree, game changer. Well, your peonies are the same way. Those last few days, it's storing up so much of those sugars to make next year's flower that it's important to leave it. Once it dies back and it's all either gold or even brown, that straw colored, then whack them off right to the ground. So, but don't feel rushed. If you're up in the higher elevations, so this is broadcast all over. Higher elevations, I really encourage you folks in Williams, the Flagstaff, and the White Mountains, the Mogollon Rim, Strawberry, Pine, Lake Top, leave the foliage on there and then prune it back in like March and April, so that that foliage will actually insulate or kind of protect that root, so it keeps some of that cold from permeating down into the heart and taking out some of the eyes. So, but in the lower elevations, if you're below 6,000 feet, whack it off when you're done. When it's brown, you can whack it off anytime you want. Oh, fertilize, you mentioned that too. Do it now. So anything that blooms in the spring, it's really important to fertilize now. So you really want to fertilize you want to fertilize everything in the yard before Halloween, but especially peonies, apples, pears, all your fruiting trees, your lilacs, forsythia, flowering quince, anything that blooms in the spring, rhododendrons and azaleas, fertilize all of those. This is the most important feeding of the entire year, no question about it. And if it hasn't bloomed as well as you wanted it to, I'd do it again at the new year. Use all-purpose plant food. It's a 744 all-purpose. It's a organic, but that cottonseed meal mixed in that it just brings the pH down. The plant can pick it up really easily. It's going to store and make next year's flower for you. So really important I do it now. Lilacs, if they've not bloomed well for you, like our lilacs been in bloom since April. It's crazy. Fertilize it now, new year, and you'll get better flowers next spring, guaranteed.
So what are your thoughts on adding bone meal or superphosphate? Would that be a good idea?
It could, if you've got a stubborn one. I mean, it just hasn't bloomed in 2 or 3 years. Yeah. But really, if you're fertilizing regularly, you shouldn't need that. What superphosphate is 0-18-0. Bone meal is 0-10-0. It's all that middle number, phosphorus. And so, yeah, if you want to enter it in the county fair, you load it up with phosphorus, and it just almost glows at night. The flowers are so bright and so big. We go through, I mean, the main thing is all-purpose food. And then I do get a 20-pound bag every year. I just sprinkle it on every once in a while through the autumn sage, your Russian sage, echinaceas, gaillardias, all those things that bloom a lot. That's a way to keep them blooming a lot. Or if you want a bigger flower, not just flowers, I want flowers on steroids. Superphosphate makes a big difference. So that can help, especially peonies, because you kind of want that whole thing covered with flowers in spring, that fragrance to permeate.
It's a one-shot deal.
Yeah, maybe it should bloom for a month and just be, oh my gosh, I can't believe how beautiful that is. Okay. So superphosphate helps. You do it in addition. It's not one or the other. Right. It's mainly the food is a 744 all-purpose plant food, and kind of the snack, the addition, the frosting on the fruit, on the fruit food would be the superphosphate.
Right. Okay, so Henry in Prescott Valley has a question. He had 2 red yuccas in his yard that were starting to look kind of funky. Yeah. So he went out to, see what was going on, touched them, and they basically fell over because they had no roots. Gophers. Yeah. Well, he didn't think it was gophers.
Yeah, okay. It could be.
So any other thoughts of what else could do it?
So a couple things can take those out. So yuccas have a real fleshy root structure, and it's very high in starch. So sometimes javelina will come in and dig that up and eat it. If it's not that, the other culprit, there's only really 2 that I can think of. Grubs. What do you think? I mean, there's some white grubs that can go in there and eat the roots. I mean,
I've seen yuccas. Grubs love yuccas.
Yep.
Gophers love yuccas.
They're sweet. They're tasty. They make tequila out of them.
Right. But if you're not seeing any gopher mounds or gopher activity, then you kind of go to the default.
Grubs. Yeah, grubs. Yep. Come in. I would say the test would be, take your yucca and dig a test hole. Just take a hand trowel, just beside there. So the roots somewhere, dig around in there, and you'll see grubs right away. It's not just one. These are white kind of C-shaped worms. And what they do for a living, they live their entire life down below the ground, and they eat the roots of plants. And they like certain plants. They got their favorite thing, and yucca's one of those. And they congregate by literally I've seen by the thousands. It could be frightening, like a Martian horror movie. That's what it looks like. The ground is moving when you dig a test hole. If you see one, you've got many coming to get us. Super easy. There's a grub killer we sprinkle on there, water it in, eliminates grubs for a year. So it's a great product. It's called Grub Killer. We don't get original here. We're just gardeners. You got grubs, we got Grub Killer. Take it right out. So also, if you've got little cone-shaped holes in your yard. Those are skunks are eating the grubs. That's another indication. If you've got these little perfectly shaped cones dug into the ground, that's where the skunk is eating the grubs. And so now it's an indicator, oh, I have grub problems. So you can read nature that way and get a feel for it. Yep. We are out of time. Boy, that was a good.
You just talk too much. That's why.
I like talking to pretty women. You want to go down that path? Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners, will be right back. Water's garden companion plants for August are radio red salvias, trumpeting vine, and butterfly bush.
Monarch and swallowtail butterflies flock to Water's butterfly bush with spectacular 8-inch flowers filling the yard with fragrance and beauty.
Heat, drought, wind only make this shrub bloom more. Tough enough to grow in clay, but hardy enough to shine in containers.
With so many colors to choose, every yard should have at least 2.
You'll only find impressive butterfly bush at Water's Garden Center in Prescott.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
So I wrote a garden column that will air next week to our Waters Garden Club members. The newspapers will pick it up. But what it really was is taking the mystery out of fertilizers, plant foods. What are they? How are they? I mean, your grandparents said fertilizer was basically cow poop. We're not talking that. We're talking something that's been measured, balanced, that we know the science. We know exactly how much per acre, per foot, and it will release and make plants thrive. You're here in the mountains of Arizona, there is no naturally occurring plant foods. There's no nutrients in the soil for your plants. And so they're more dependent on you than they are in other parts of the country. So you'll find that you fertilize more often here. And you're not using really liquid fertilizers. Like if you use Miracle-Gro, whatever, out and you've got 8 foot of topsoil, you can use that because it's not really doing anything. It's the soil doing the work. You're just almost adding more water or whatever. So liquids aren't really that effective here. You're not using water solubles. And for the love of gardening, stop using Miracle-Gro. This is salt in a box that you add to your water and you're killing your plants. It's not doing your plants a favor. Don't use salt-based fertilizer, which Miracle-Gro is, because your water's already got so many minerals. You'll see this in the bottom of your containers. This white, mucky, flaky stuff will be building up. That's not good for your plants. And so use organic fertilizers. I guess while I'm on my soapbox, don't use Miracle-Gro and don't stop using chemical fertilizers. You don't need a 2100, a 10-10-10, a 20-20-20. I'll explain that in a second, but really those are petroleum-based chemicals that release so quickly. The plants like it actually, but it burns off all your worms, all your beneficials, all the good stuff in the soil. It's detrimental to your soil. It's good for the plants. And so you see activity right away. So it feels good to use it. But boy, in the long run, it just does more harm than good. Organic fertilizers, all natural. So bird guanos and cottonseed meals and irons, and these are all feather meals and blood meals and bone meals. These are all good. These are organics. Those plants like, and the reason they're so good for your plants is they release slower over a much longer period of time. So you get a more consistent, even, methodical release, which is what your plants need. They don't need a quick fix. And then they're starving for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. They want to be slowly fed over a very long period of time. And organics, because they're breaking down so slowly, they don't harm your worms. They're actually good for the soil. They're good for the plants because they get more consistent, even fertilizing. And so you get more growth. It's a game changer. And so another one we make our own fertilizers here at Waters Garden Center. I've got 2. Got the all-purpose plant food. That's the original. Been around forever. We don't call that one organic. We call it all natural because we're adding some minerals like sulfur and iron to it. And so there's minerals, but you can't call it organic unless it's just blood meal, bone meal, the meal stuff. So, but it's all natural. It's good. It's slow release. It's all the good stuff you want. I did create an actual all organic for my truly hardcore organic gardeners. And yes, the fruit trees, the vegetables, herb gardens. We have a vegetable and fruit tree fertilizer that's pelletized meals that's 100% organic. They both break down very slowly. They're both granular. You spread them out under the drip line of your plants. And then as water, snow, rain, fertilize hits that, it releases it and helps feed your plants. The reason that now is the most important feeding of the entire year, now through at least by Halloween, but for sure before Thanksgiving, you need to fertilize everything. If you want lilacs next spring, you got to fertilize now. If you want fruit trees next spring, you need to fertilize now. If you want spring blooming rhododendrons, azaleas, you got to fertilize now. It's using this food for next spring's flower growth, leaf buds. If you got new gardens, brand new landscape, you got to fertilize now. You get better growth next spring. It's a game changer. And then a little insider tip for your evergreens. So silver is the color of evergreens. It seems like everyone wants a silver or blue spruce, not a green spruce. They want blue or silver juniper, silver, this bright, silvery, glossy. That's actually aluminum. The plant's picking up aluminum and covering its green foliage with aluminum. So you get this bright silver color to it. If you know that, and there's not any aluminum in your ground, you're going to have to give it to the plants. There's aluminum sulfate. So evergreens, we're mainly talking evergreens, maybe some hydrangeas, rhododendrons, they would all appreciate that. But really, we're talking pine trees, spruce trees, that kind of stuff. Your deodar cedars, they like aluminum sulfate in addition to the all-purpose plant food. So all-purpose plant food is cottonseed meal, very acidic. We put sulfur in it, makes it even more acidic. Evergreens like acidy type of soils, fertilizers, and then you're giving it aluminum sulfate, even makes it more acidic and gives it aluminum. You're putting those two things down together now in the next 30 days or so, and next spring's growth will be the most spectacular, like glow in the dark silver. It's a game changer. And this is like fertilizer, like 401 in college. Just like we're going deep. But those two things, game changer. Fertilize now. And then in addition to just fertilizing, give your evergreens some aluminum sulfate. Wow, you're going to have a spectacular garden next year. If new neighbors are encroaching on your privacy, we have just the solution.
At Waters, we have an entire section of thick, bold plants dedicated to privacy.
Fall is a time to plant a new privacy hedge, and we're here as advisors.
Take a quick measurement and snap a picture before you come visit, and you'll quickly be living in privacy once again.
Plus, our team of experts know how to plant to increase plant growth next spring. We'll show you how.
Waters Garden Center. We know privacy in your backyard. The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at watersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
So we are back with Lisa Waters Lane. She comes in. This segment is all for her just because, well, I respect her garden info so much. Prowess. I just love being in a studio with her. My gal, my wife of 34 years, shares garden tips. Just this segment because you make me look better. You make me even sound better than I could possibly be. There you go. So welcome back to the studio, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much. Good to be back.
So you got all these new clothes. My goodness, where's all this stuff coming from? You look fantastic.
I'm trying to branch out of my t-shirt and jeans. It's very uncomfortable, but I'm trying.
Okay. So more Costco runs.
No.
Is that
Costco.
Walmart?
Walmart.
Nordstrom's?
Do I look
Mace-
like I shop
Dillard's?
at Walmart?
No, you don't.
Jeez.
I don't even know what that means. You just offended all the Walmart customer listeners. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
You made me do it. Your fault.
let's move on to gardening before we dig this hole any deeper.
Yes. So last week I was talking about some pansies and different things that we'd gotten in.
Right.
And you berated me because I forgot to bring some in to show the audience, the people, the blogger, the streamers.
The vlog,
The vlog.
video blog. Yeah.
Ah,
So this is
okay.
recorded through StreamYard. You folks that are doing podcasts and that kind of stuff, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So we record some of this through our video, and then it gets broadcast through Signals AZ, Prescott E-News, our channel. So you can see this segment at least, not the whole radio show. And it's videotaped. And so we get to show some things off, which is kind of new and fun and interesting, different.
Yeah. So I brought some pansies this week to share everybody because it is now officially fall.
It is.
So, hey, it's time to be putting those pansies and violas and snapdragons and all that fun stuff out. So the first one I brought is called Delta Fire. Look at I love you're better at
figuring out where the camera is. Here you go. I'll hold it. Here you go, folks. Right close up, right there.
We have
right
dirt
all over the keyboard.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that one's Delta Fire, and I love the color. Isn't that such a pretty autumn fall color? Absolutely gorgeous. So that's a new one that just came in. And then we also have the Matrix Beaconsfield.
You can hold that one. We'll hold them up side by side.
There we go. And that one I love because it has the two-tone kind of purples to it. Very pretty as well. So those are just a small sampling of all the different pansies and violas that we have in.
Can I give that one back to you? So you put it on that side of the, I'll try to get this keyboard, get the dirt off without disconnecting us.
I think you may.
No, we're good.
Oh, are we still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is when it's better to watch by radio. You just don't see all the chaos going on behind the
nothing
the desk.
to see here. So this is a snapdragon. This is the Sonnet Carmen.
It smells good.
Doesn't it have a nice fragrance?
Yeah, it does.
I was not used to that. I was bringing it over here and I'm like, what's that smell? Oh my gosh, it's the Snapdragon. Yeah. So nice fragrance to it, which you don't expect, but and very pretty.
And Snapdragons animals don't eat that one. Okay, that's
I
pretty
was
together.
Showing the combo. That's a really pretty combo.
Purple and pink.
Yeah.
Purple and pink.
Right. But yeah, Snapdragons, if you've got deer, javelina, bunnies, they leave them alone. Rats,
voles, squirrels.
We don't have voles here, do we?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yeah, so in the backyard, we caught like 20 of them this year.
What is it we don't have that I always...
So we don't have moles. So these are underground. We have pocket gophers, but not moles. Moles are more east coast.
Okay.
We do have prairie dogs up in the Williams, Flagstaff area, higher elevation. And then we do have a field mice, which are called voles, V-O-L-E. So moles, voles. It's a mouse with basically a little bit pointed nose. You can always spot them. So they get into things.
Okay.
Our nemesis in our backyards are pack rats. It's like you southern folks, you know what rats are. These are rats on steroids. They're bigger than even southern rats. They have these stick wood piles in the middle of oaks and manzanitas. They're the ones building that. Sometimes rabbits. So that's kind of our thing. But they don't like snapdragons, Dusty Miller, some of these things. Their moms are pretty good at keeping them alone.
Yeah.
So
definitely time for that. So I thought I'd bring those in for show and tell.
Good.
So then I thought we would talk about some of the things that we have coming in this week that if you're still looking for color to put out in your landscape, we have two different Pugster butterfly bush coming in. We have a pink one and a blue one coming in. Pugster is terrific because it's a 2 foot by 3 foot. So it has a small footprint out there in the yard. But the cool thing about it is the blossoms are the same size as the regular butterfly bush. And the other thing that I just learned about the Pugsters, is they are very winter hardy.
Yeah.
So they're even more cold resistant than the standard butterfly, which does terrific.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
So it would grow up in those higher elevations.
Right.
Let's say 7,000-8,000 foot levels, like the Highland Pines, Williams, Flagstaff. They would winter right through and be
Right.
fine.
So
great.
they are hardier than just your little average butterfly bush. So cool. Learned that. We're also getting in Miss Molly, Miss Violet, and Miss Ruby.
Butterfly bush.
Gotcha. So those are another one, 4x4. And they're going to continue to bloom here.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably have another good month, if not more.
Yeah, end of October, end of, I don't know, middle of November. Depends on the elevation. Right. This is broadcast everywhere. It depends on where you live.
So lots of time to have color left in your yard. And the Miss Molly is a really dark pink. Miss Violet's dark purple. And then Miss Ruby is a brilliant pink, a little bit lighter, but very, very, they really show up there out in the yard.
Miss Molly, I just planted 4 of them along the fence line just a couple weeks ago. And they're starting to set new buds. So the flowers that were on them are kind of faded. I pinched those off because I wanted to set either more roots or more flowers. Just decide, just grow there. They seem to be happy. They're loving this weather. The warm soil and the cooler weather, they're going nuts. It's a great time to plant any of these you've just mentioned.
Right. Yeah, they love that. So also we're getting a new fountain grass in. So I'm really into the fountain grasses this year.
You sure are.
This one's called Hamlin. It's about a 2 foot by 3 foot grass. Has the cream colored
plume. Yeah, or poof. It goes by both. Yeah, we just made up a new garden term right here on the Mountain Gardener. You heard it here.
Sometimes I speak no good. I don't know. But the cool thing about it, so right now it has a very green foliage on it, but as we get into those cooler temperatures, shorter days, it will turn a very bronzy color. So terrific going into fall. That would be really pretty. And the other thing we're getting in is the kaleidoscope amelia.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So kaleidoscope, it's more of like an Eastern exposure, some shade light to it. But it has yellow and lime green leaves right now. So through the season, but as we move into fall and winter, there again, it gets a change of color to it. So it kind of turns more of a orangey red color.
Like almost pink almost. It's very unusual. Yeah. Amelia is just such a great plant. It's got a waxy leaf to it. So it makes it pretty
kind
robust.
Of an oval leaf.
And I have seen that growing in Prescott Valley in full sun.
Okay. I believe.
Now it didn't bloom as well. So the flowers last longer. So it's got a cute little, almost
white
like a,
flower.
Whitey pinky, like a honeysuckle kind of flower, a little bit shorter. Covers this bush.
Right.
And it blooms a crazy long time if it's got some protection, midday protection in June. Otherwise, it just blooms. Again, it's one of those that's mostly evergreen.
Right.
So it'll keep its foliage unless we go sub-zero, some freaky winter, which you never know anymore. Right. It holds its foliage. Yeah. So it's a great plant. Gets up about
2 feet,
hip high, something like that.
I think the kaleidoscope gets around 2 feet tall. It's a little bit smaller than some of the other.
Do we have the Edward Gloucher, the regular green one too?
No.
Okay.
Just kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope for
Which
now.
Which is prettier. It's prettier because you get more color in the leaf, and then you get that really pretty fall color.
You're trying to convince the East and Midwest folks who are used to the green one. But yeah, I like them both.
Time to broaden their horizons.
Yes, there we go. You've tuned in here to the Mountain Garden. You've heard it from Lisa. So Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners, some things you can plant. We're still shipping plants.
Oh yeah,
because we've got plenty of planting season left. But you got that autumn and then that winter mix that's starting to show up, which is kind of fun. Grasses and evergreens. Yeah. Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be right back after this.
Whether you're freshening up an existing landscape or starting with a blank slate, the Waters In-Store Garden Consultation is right for anyone.
If you don't know where to start, Waters Personal Shopper Service allows you to book one-on-one time with an expert without the crowds.
It's easy by phone or through our website. No lines, no waiting.
Purchase a $250 gift card from Waters, and it comes with one-on-one private gardener time.
You're going to love your yard again.
Waters Garden Center in Prescott or watersgardencenter.com.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our lavender chiffon hibiscus.
This hardy variety is one of the longest blooming, most prolific shrubs, showing off massive 4-inch lavender flowers all summer long.
This stately bush likes to show off, and all for $39.
But wait, there's more. These pretty shrubs come back again next year with even more stunning beauty.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love stunning hibiscus, they love to shop. Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
There's a few things that I'm doing now that kind of helps. We've been gardening like crazy, and it starts to get overwhelming. The tomatoes are too big. What do I do with that many cucumbers? The flowers is good. The dahlias are spectacular. So they're humongous. And so, but we're going to get some frost that will kind of nip some of these things. And so I'm trying to get some of my frost hardy plants into the gardens. So my frost hardy vegetables into the garden so that when it does get frosty, I'm not obliterated and there's nothing left in the yard. I still have some pansies growing, some colorful Johnny Jump Ups, some beautiful Dusty Miller, some mums that are gorgeous. I'll keep having broccoli and lettuce and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. I'll keep having some of that harvest, but it's not going to be zinnias. They'll get burned. It's not going to be tomatoes. They don't like the frost. It's not going to be eggplants. You can look at those things cold and I'm surprised if they're looking bad now, just rip them out because they're only going to get worse. They don't like cold nights. They like the heat. And so I'm trying to eliminate some things that are not performing. They haven't produced I was getting 5 tomatoes a week off of this plant. Now I haven't had one this week. Oh, okay. Clue. It's not going to get rid of it. So I can free up some big garden space for we love broccoli at Christmas. And you can easily have that in your own gardens. And so just by planting now's the time. So that's one thing that I'm doing right now. Also, you're noticing you're starting to see some fall color. Another 2 weeks, it'll be a lot of fall color. And then that means a whole bunch of like composting gold is going to come. So if you were thinking about starting a compost pile, this is like the magic. It's like the insider tip to gardening. It makes a difference. Now's the time to start all those. Not so much twigs. Twigs don't really break down. Not so much pine needles. They really don't break down, but leaves and grass clippings and flowers and vegetable clipping. Oh, these things are like magic. They compost so easy. You just need a nice bright place. You need some place where it's got some moisture. It's kind of out of the way. But now's the time to think about a compost pile because the timing is perfect for that. I did write an article on that a couple of weeks ago. It's on our blog. It's on my webpage, watersgardencenter.com. Just type in compost up in the search bar. It'll pop right up. Or I guess you could look at blog and filter down a couple and you'll finally find it. But composting, it's so easy. And now's an opportune time to really take advantage. That's one thing that I do. I really try to prepare and get ready for all the organics that are come our way. Be careful of your open space. If you've got some dead flowers, let's say mildew took them out, don't leave that garden open. It's just waiting for disease to come, more weeds to come in. If you've got especially raised beds, vegetable flower gardens, containers, if you've got a space like that and you pull a plant out, either put a plant back in so that space is not open, because plants have a way of keeping it. They take all of that garden space and energy. They don't allow weeds to get going. But if you leave it open, if it's open, weeds are going to come. You're going to have weeds. There's going to be foxtail and dandelions, all the nasty winter weeds. They're going to be there. Or just put a 2 to 3 inch layer of compost or mulch on top of that open space, and that will suffocate things out. So as we start to fade, you're pulling things out. Don't just leave that open. I did notice that I've got some serious weed issues showing up. So I went out spraying some of the spot treating, and generally I'm pretty good. Our gardens are weed free. And the way I do it is I just keep up on it. But certain areas you'll notice weeds are congregating more. And the reason is the weed and grass stopper, there's a seed preventer that keeps seed from coming up. I would encourage you to, if you've got down a fence line, a driveway, an area just in that back across the dry wash, there's an area where just weeds are growing faster than other places. Even though I've got fabric and rock down, weeds should not be showing up, but they do. Put some weed and grass stopper. It's a granular. You sprinkle it through a hand spreader out through the yard. And as rain hits that or snow activates it, or you just put a hose on it, it goes down to that dusty layer above the rock, above the fabric and below the rock where all the weeds are growing. It keeps that seed from germinating. It keeps weeds at bay. And right now, this is when you can tell this is where I need to put it, because there's so many weeds there. I can't believe I had to spray more over here than anywhere else in the yard. Put it there. Actually, I do the entire yard just because I despise weeding. That's like we were Adam and Eve, got us kicked out of the garden. We were cursed with weeds. I hate weeds. So the weed and grass stopper just eliminates probably 98% of all weeding that's ever going to be needed. But you'll notice in your gardens, there's certain places where it's just worse than others. That's your cue. Put it there. And so now is the time. If you are going to spot an evergreen of any type, spruce, a pine, a cedar, fir, cypress, junipers, whatever it is, red tip photinia, silverberry, there's so many of them. I probably have 50 varieties of evergreens right now. You need to think through a little bit right now, because it's such a good time to plant. And in a month, you're going to have those deciduous plants are going to shed their leaves. You're going to be left naked. If you can envision a little bit, I think I've always admired a Colorado spruce. I like that Christmas tree look. I want one there in the front yard or off the back patio, or I want to decorate it by. Now is the time to plant those. You'll get better rooting. You get more success. So you'll have less transplant shock planting now rather than spring, and you'll get better growth next spring. But mainly, if you can envision some of that, it's going to keep your yard from looking naked in winter. So just by planting now, you get to enjoy the holiday season to come. But mainly you can, as in a month, it's just going to be you folks from the evergreen areas like Southern California. You're not used to 4 seasons. Things are deciduous. We're in a serious 4-season climate. And so if you committed all of your plants to lilacs in the spring and roses, and then crepe myrtles and rose of Sharons in summer, and then your autumn burning bush and choke cherries, and then you didn't put enough evergreens in, you're going to be left wanting. Now you got a great selection. It's a good time to plant them. Same thing with your fall colored stuff. You've got maples, aspens. We have a huge selection of apples, birch. It's a beautiful new Raywood ash. This is a kind of a 30 by 30 foot tree, shade tree, with beautiful purple. In another 3 weeks, it'll be there. These bright purple, like not a muted purple like purple leaf plum. We're talking like bright glow in the dark, like royal purple. That's Raywood ash. It's spectacular. It's related to our native ash. It grows just wild here. It's equally as hardy. But now's the time you want to plant those. You have your best selection now. You have bigger sizes, and you can just do more with it. There's a few things right now. I'm just trying to, anything that looks even remotely like it's looking peaked, I am ripping that baby out of the ground. I'm aggressively going into the roots, trying to get some more soil. I'm replacing that area with some more potting soil, and then I'm actively putting in some pansies. There's this whole series of fall plants. You folks in the Midwest, you'll be jealous, because you're used to planting mums and pansies and snapdragons and Dusty Miller now, and then they're dead by Christmas because it gets too cold there. Here, we don't get that cold. It still warms right up, and it's pretty nice. Even in January, it'll get to 55, 60 degrees. Yeah, it's brutal at night, but it warms right back up. And so those kind of plants, they continue to bloom right through winter. You're going to love it. It's so much better. We have so many more choices. Also, if you were planting those root crops, let's say vegetables now, so lettuce, kale, beets, radishes, carrots, make sure they're growing really fast right now. Make sure to thin those out periodically. So you give them room because they'll continue to grow through the end of the year. I mean, well into winter, they're continuing to grow. So give them room. Don't just let them choke each other out. It's very easy for them to do that. Okay, we got a lot more in store for you, but I'm running against the time here. Let me take a break. We'll come back with some more garden tips, tricks, and garden advice right after this. High waters with the plants of the week and our gold flame honeysuckle.
Wonderfully fragrant. These blooms are in full color right now and will stay that way until the first frost of October.
These pink and gold blooms are irresistible to hummingbirds and butterflies alike.
Excellent as a quick ground cover, but robust enough to climb vertical structures and fences, all for under $37.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love blooming vines, they love to shop.
You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So we're into that time of year of transition, autumn or fall color. Trees are the most famous. So you're the maples and aspens and ash and locusts and oaks and there's ornamental pears. There's so many varieties and we're famous for all of those. You can plant all of those. But the one that's kind of forgotten, the shrubs of autumn are some of they're even brighter. They put some of the trees to shame. And so I thought I'd mention one that's kind of the brightest of all of them. And its name implies why it's so spectacular. It's called burning bush. Actually, there's several with that kind of name, but burning bush, it's a euonymus. Don't ask me how to spell that. Eusyous, euonymus. Anyway, there's several varieties. Euonymus loves growing in the mountains of Arizona. It's not a phoenix plant, not desert. It's a 4-season plant. So it comes up, it grows up about head high by about head wide, nice ball shaped. It's a green shrub through the growing season, but in the autumn of the year, it literally is like it's fire engine red. Flip the switch on and add spotlights to it. It's kind of that kind of like, wow, I can't believe it. And so that's one so all euonymus. So we've got, most of them are evergreens. This one actually is deciduous. So it loses its leaves when it's done. And then many times, like floral arrangements, you'll see many euonymus or burning bush types of twigs because it has this interesting corky kind of structure to it. Even the stems have a lot of character to them. So it's a beautiful plant year round. The green is very bright Kelly green in spring. It's a nice rich deep green, forest green in summer. That's got the bright color like burning red in the fall. And so it's got a lot going to it. It does really, really well. All euonymus does well here because they have generally a thick, waxy type of leaf to it, which makes them very robust. And so we'll be going over a lot of that. Let me mention some garden classes too. So today it's fall containers. So every Saturday at 9:30, we have a garden class. So today's this fall container class. How do you put things together with style? And Lisa's going to teach that one. Our classes continue through October, and next week is kind of what this entire show has been focused on, the fall to-do list. Here's a top 10 checklist. I just go down and I go, do this to set the stage for very healthy plants that go through winter and come out next spring with even better growth, better, stronger color. So that's next Saturday, October 7th. The 14th, we've got the best autumn colors. We'll show off the trees and the shrubs of fall. We'll show you an autumn blaze maple. We'll show you the Virginia creeper. We'll show you the maples and aspens, and we'll show you how to plant each one. That's October 14th. And then a special one geared up with some succulents, cacti. What are low maintenance, like rock garden kind of plants? That's the 21st of October. We'll be showing off all those. And we'll probably throw in a few more native-y kind of agaves, yuccas, that kind of the very robust, very tough plants, but some of the unusual structured plants. And then the showy shrubs of autumn is the last one in October. But every Saturday at 9:30, we typically have about 30 people show up. It's free. We go for about an hour. If there's a lot of questions, like last week, the class was really energetic. They went for an hour and a half. They just went. I had to finally shut it off going, okay, I'll hang out as long as you want, but I know those chairs are getting hard. I'll release those that want to go, and the rest can kind of come up, take pictures of the plants. We go over design, how to put things together, the things that you can plant now, how to get them to grow better, stronger, faster next spring, how to fertilize them, water them, care for them. That's all in about an hour's class every Saturday at 9:30. Please join us. It's fun to hang out with gardeners. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. We enjoy, we live for talking to fellow gardeners. If new neighbors are encroaching on your privacy, we have just the solution.
At Waters, we have an entire section of thick, bold plants dedicated to privacy.
Fall is a time to plant a new privacy hedge, and we're here as advisors.
Take a quick measurement and snap a picture before you come visit, and you'll quickly be living in privacy once again.
Plus, our team of experts know how to plant to increase plant growth next spring. We'll show you how.
Waters Garden Center. We know privacy in your backyard. If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.
If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at watersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.